There it is. Okay.
You good?
This is this is Jeanne Mull. She is with East Jefferson's cardiac rehab department, and she is a clinical exercise physiologist.
Yes. How you doing? I've been doing cardiac rehab about 19 years now. I've only been with East Jefferson since October, but it's a very good fit. They have a very good cardiac rehab department, and so we're going to talk about exercise and atrial fibrillation today. So first slide is, saw this and I thought it was interesting, as everybody kind of says, well, what does AFIB feel like? And these were kind of some descriptions that people gave: drums pounding in their chest, thunder rumbling in their chest, or like a fish flopping. So I think for everybody it is a little bit different. Sometimes people say they have no symptoms, they can't feel it at all. So just kind of is dependent on the person. Normally when the heart contracts, it's going to relax and pump and relax at a regular beat, a nice rhythmic beat. So with atrial fibrillation, the two upper chambers, or your atria, are going to beat irregularly, too fast, and they say it kind of quivers sometimes like a bowl full of gelatin or jello, okay? And AFib is the most common arrhythmia and affects more than 2.7 million Americans. So this is something that I know is near and dear for y'all also. So as far as exercise and atrial fibrillation, AFib can reduce that pumping ability of your heart. During exercise, your body needs more blood and more oxygen to those muscles that are exercising. So this puts more of a demand on your heart. If your heart is less efficient, then you're going to notice that you probably get tired or fatigued more easily with exercise. AFib can decrease your exercise capacity as much as 20%. So for people with AFib, the thought of exercising with an irregular heart rhythm can be kind of frightening and scary. But in general, it is okay to exercise with AFib, okay? You want to make sure you talk to your doctor. It can be your cardiologist or your electrophysiologist, Dr. Zhao, before you start an exercise program. You want to ask about specific restrictions that the doctor would want you to have. Sometimes they'll give you like a specific heart rate that they don't want you to exceed. A lot of times with atrial fib, the heart rates can be very erratic. So he may tell you certain guidelines where he doesn't want you, but we always defer to your specific physician and let him kind of guide you if he has anything specific that he does not want you to do, or any restrictions where he would want you to try to keep that heart rate underneath. Exercising with AFib is safe when you have the condition is managed medically. So a lot of times they will do that with medication that try to keep that rate and that rhythm in a controlled manner. Exercise has been proven to be a valuable form of medicine in treating many diseases, including the heart conditions that are linked to atrial fib. Moderate exercise is good for most people, and it does help reduce the risk of the risk factors for heart disease overall. People who engage in regular exercise tend to have fewer problems with AFib, and they better manage everyday activities, and it can improve their quality of life. So I think that's kind of what we all want. If we have this irregular rhythm, you want to be able to do more in your daily life that you were able to. You don't want to be kind of inhibited. Some of the overall benefits of exercise. So it's going to reduce the risk of heart disease and stroke. It's going to lower your blood pressure. It's going to improve your diabetes. And when we do cardiac rehab, we'll check people's blood sugars before and after. And you do see that if they're diabetic, their blood sugars do drop with exercise. Improves your mental health. Sometimes people say, oh, I'm stressed out. I'm having a hard time. They'll come, they'll exercise. Your body releases those good endorphins, and they're actually feeling better mentally when they leave. And it can improve your heart function. It improves your energy levels, improves your cholesterol and blood fats. One of the cholesterols is your HDL, which is the good. And I always tell people, if you can't remember which one's the good, think H is happy. So you want those H to be higher, okay? Exercise increases those HDLs, which actually are the good cholesterol, and they get rid of that bad cholesterol. So it's very good. It can help improve your sleep. It improves your muscle tone, and it gives you an enhanced self-image and quality of life. So there's that quality of life again. So we just want your quality of life to be better. It can also help with weight loss, and why we talk about that is obesity, which is a BMI of greater than 30, and I gave y'all a couple handouts on BMI. You can kind of look and see where you fall in that chart, and then there's another chart to kind of see where you fall and kind of what your risks are with that. So if you have a BMI of greater than 30, it is linked to increased blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease. Obesity can cause inflammation and other changes with the heart, which can cause AFib to worsen. And then obesity is one of the many risk factors that can be changed. So when you talk about heart disease, you have risk factors that we can change and ones that we can't. So you really want to try to focus on those ones that you cannot change. So this is one of the charts I gave you. So it just talks about the different ranges of the BMI and then your risk of comorbidity. The higher your BMI goes, the higher your risk goes. And I gave y'all that handout. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so American Heart Association, their guidelines for aerobic exercise is now 150 minutes a week. So it can be, what they kind of recommend is the more days a week, the better. But if somebody's super busy, then you can kind of cut it down to that 3-day a week. But for most people, we try to recommend that 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. But if you're busy and you say, oh, I can only get 3 days in, then you can do 50 minutes. Now that would be a goal. That wouldn't be, if somebody's just starting, that wouldn't be what I want them to do on that first day. I would want them to start at a lower number and then gradually build up from there. American Heart Association also recommends light to moderate strength training 2 days a week. Okay, so we're not talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger or anybody like that. We're starting real low and then we're going to gradually build up. So examples, I tell people it doesn't have to be in the gym. If you think about your overall everyday life, what can I do to be more active? So examples that you can be more active throughout your day. You're doing some housework, maybe a little bit more than you would normally do, gardening, yard work, taking the dog for a walk, or just going for a walk by yourself. When you go to the grocery store, park a little further away. You know, don't look for that spot right in the front, just park a little further away. Take the stairs if you're able to instead of the elevator. And then if you're a golfer, you can walk that golf course instead of riding it with the car. So just think throughout your day, you know, how can I be a little bit more active, get a little bit more activity in my life. Some good guidelines, you want to wear comfortable attire. When people are coming to cardiac rehab, I tell them whatever you feel comfortable in, you know. If you don't feel comfortable in shorts and a t-shirt, then wear whatever you feel comfortable in. Probably the most important thing would be supportive shoes, rubber sole, usually not open toe or open back, you know. That's just for safety, especially if you're walking on a treadmill. It is good to warm up and cool down. They recommend 5 to 10 minute warm up and then a 5 to 10 minute cool down. And the cool down is when you can include some of that stretching. For the warm up, a lot of times with my heart patients, if you're going to exercise and you're at a resting state, and then all of a sudden you jump to 4 miles an hour on a treadmill, well then that heart kind of wasn't ready to get there, and you can have more arrhythmias and more problems during that time. So we always want to kind of gradually build up and then exercise, and then when you're done, I want you to gradually build down instead of all of a sudden, bam, we stopped. You can have kind of the blood pool, you can have cramping, different issues like that. So it's always good, I try to teach people to gradually build up, exercise, and then gradually build it down. It's important to stay hydrated. So they want you to drink plenty of fluids, especially we live down south. So in those hot months, we want y'all to stay hydrated, especially if you're going to go outdoors and do any kind of walking. Make sure you drink enough fluids. And then you want to listen to your body. Pay attention to what your symptoms, if you're having any, don't ignore them. Take breaks if you need them. If normally you walk 10 minutes one day and then the next day at 5 minutes you feel like you can't go anymore, then take that break and then you can start up and do 5 more minutes. So you don't have to do it just because you did it the day before. You still want to listen to your body and kind of listen to how you're feeling. With your goals, you want them to be realistic. You don't want to set unrealistic goals that you're never going to achieve. So I tell people short-term goals can help you lead towards that long-term goal. So just set your little goal. If you're not doing anything, then say, okay, 2 days this week I'm going to exercise for 20 minutes. And then if you can achieve that, then maybe add another day or add 10 more minutes, kind of just gradually build on that goal. And then exercise at any level has a positive effect on your physical well-being and mortality reduction. So keep it simple, make it enjoyable. Some other fun things is to get a partner, somebody that may, when you're not feeling like it, they may say, hey, why don't we go take that walk? Or if you're not feeling like it, they may be doing the same to you. So just try to make it as fun. And don't say you're going to go across town to that new fitness center when you got to sit in 30 minutes of traffic, because more than likely you're not going to take that ride. So you want to try to pick somewhere close, somewhere that you feel welcome, somewhere that you feel comfortable, something that you like doing. All right, so you have two types of exercise. First is aerobic exercise. So this uses large muscle groups, and it's generally like a repetitive movement over and over and over. It should increase your heart rate and your breathing rate. You can do shorter time blocks or interval training if you're unable to do the recommended time. So let's say your goal is to get to 30 minutes, but I can only do 10-minute stints. Then that's okay, Interval training is, let's say, you're doing 10 minutes on the treadmill at 2.0 and you want to increase your time, your speed. So what you could do is you could do like 5 minutes at 2.0 and then increase it to 2.1 for like a minute and then go back to 2.0. And then slowly make that 2.1 last longer than the 2.0. And then eventually you can take that 2.1 and it'll take over the whole time. So it's kind of a way to kind of like a hills and valleys to try to get you up to that next level that you're trying to get to. And your body kind of handles that. It's not so hard on your body. You can do, and then I try to teach my patients is when we're exercising, add 1 to 2 minutes once a week. So if they do a treadmill 10 minutes, I'm going to do that for a whole week. Then the next week I'm going to see if they can do 11 or 12. And then I'm going to do that for a whole week. And then I'm going to try to go up, 13, 14. So it's kind of a very gradual progression for trying to get that time up to where that American Heart Association wants that 150 minutes for the week. So aerobic exercise. So these are just some examples: walking or using a treadmill, a bicycle. There are elliptical trainers, which are very good. They do have standing ones, and now they're making seated ones, which for a lot of our patients, they like that because it's not as hard as the standing. A rowing machine, or if you have a boat, you can go in the water. I don't know. We have group exercise classes. A Stairmaster, which would probably be a little bit harder. I would tell you to do that after you've been exercising a while. A new step machine is very good. It uses arms and legs. And swimming or water aerobics. Water aerobics, it's very good if you have any joint issues or anything like that. It really helps kind of you be able to exercise, but without getting the wear and tear on those joints. And your next kind of exercise would be strength training. So it's going to build muscle, which in turn burns fat. So I always teach people, it's not that we're trying to get bulky. We're trying to build that muscle. And then when you do, it can help with the joints and help you have a more of a long, physically active life. As we get older, we do lose our muscle mass. So this strength training can kind of offset that muscle loss. So it is very important. I find sometimes you see some older people, they want to kind of hunch down, and I think it's just their muscles are getting weaker. And so you got to try to keep kind of offsetting that muscle loss that we're having as we get older. You want to start with a light amount of weight and then increase slowly. General rule, I tell people between 8 and 15 repetitions. You can probably go up to 20, if you really wanted to. And I usually say start with one set and then you want to build up, 2 to 3 sets. When you're lifting weights, you don't want to hold your breath. It will increase your heart rate and your blood pressure. So I find when we're working in our cardiac rehab, when I start to see the patient's heart rate going up and I look at him, he's doing weights, and I'll say, are you breathing? I forgot, because you can just see it's happening. So when you're pushing that weight up, you should be exhaling. So I try to teach people, anytime you're going to go against gravity with your weight, you should be exhaling. So it doesn't matter. If I'm doing a curl, I should exhale when it's coming up. When I'm doing a press, I'm exhaling when it's going up. So anytime the weight is going against gravity, that's going to be the hardest part of the exercise. And that is when you want to exhale. Okay? And that will also help you not forget to breathe. So it will help you not hold your breath. You want to use these major muscle groups. So your legs and your arms, your back and your chest, your shoulders, and then your abdominal and your stomach. So it's generally, you don't need to do if you go to a gym, you don't need to do every machine in the gym either. You're going to kind of look around and see, okay, this one works my chest, this one works my back, this one works my legs, and you can kind of pick and choose. You don't need to sit there all day and do every single machine. So some precautions that you may have exercising with atrial fibrillation. The medications are going to be very important for your routine. The medications are going to keep that heart rate from going too high. You can still reap the benefits of exercise even if your heart rate does not, go up super high, because the medicines might keep you kind of blocked down. You want to try to exercise after you take your medicines, okay? So don't exercise early and then take them after. You'd rather take those meds and then go exercise after the fact. Strenuous exercise should be avoided for people with AFib. They say moderate exercise is better, okay? So we don't want to push it too hard, like where you'd be working at a high intensity. Heart rate can be regular, so checking it sometimes isn't an accurate gauge, because like I said, it can be very erratic, kind of go up and down. So they do suggest that you use what's called the perceived exertion scale, and I gave you a copy of one. It's called the Board Perceived Exertion Scale. It goes from 6 to 20. Now, I always say, why didn't it start at 1? I don't know. But I think somebody told me it was related to 6 was originally thought somewhere, the heart rate would be somewhere in the 60s, and then it would kind of go up from there. But I always teach people, 6 is laying at home on your sofa, doing absolutely nothing, okay? And the 20 is you're working so hard, you're getting ready to fall out. So what they want you to try to maintain between 11 and 14, okay? If you're working and you feel like it's below an 11 and you don't have any symptoms, no adverse symptoms, then you can push yourself a little harder, okay? But if you rate it as above a 14, then you want to decrease that intensity and your duration or time of exercise, okay? So I just have it up here. So the 6 would be I'm laying on my sofa and doing nothing. A 20 is I'm getting ready to fall on the floor. Okay, so those are your extremes. So they want you to be between 11, which is that fairly light, and 14, which is right above hard, okay? So that's kind of where you want to shoot. And that's why I gave you a copy, because a lot of people don't know the scale. And so even our cardiac rehab patients, when they graduate, we teach them, use this scale, because we use it all throughout rehab. You remember it from when you went. And then you say, okay, how you working? Give me a number. And so you always want to be in that range. And like I say, one day you might do something and it feels like a 12, but for whatever reason, that next day, it's feeling like a 16, then you need to listen to your body, slow it down or stop, okay? Always listen to your body. These are signs of when to stop exercising. Dizzy or lightheaded, if you feel like your heart is exceptionally fast, if you feel like you're having palpitations, okay? And if you live with AFib, then you're just going to have to kind of be the judge and say, how do I normally feel? Is this different? Kind of know your body and know, because, people with AFib, it would be a little different than somebody who didn't have that. If you have any chest pain, or even if it starts to radiate down one of your arms, pain to your jaw, between your shoulder blades, and into your upper abdomen. Any severe shortness of breath, unusual fatigue, if you're nausea, have nausea or vomiting. And I know you're going to be exercising, so I wasn't sure about the cold sweat, but if you just feel like you're really sweating and you're clammy and you're just feeling bad, if you have any other adverse symptoms, then you would want to stop exercising. And what they ask is that you stop and you're going to sit and rest for about 5 or 10 minutes. If you're still feeling terrible, then you want to seek medical attention, okay? So if you're still having those symptoms. I think human nature is, if we have any type of adverse symptoms, we say, oh, I'm going to sit down, everything's going to be fine. But you really want to listen to your body and take precautions when you do have any adverse symptoms, especially, calling your doctor, let them know. So just summary, I know AFIB can be a scary problem to have. You can learn to exercise safely. You always want to use the direction and support of your healthcare team. You can gain positive outcomes that come with exercising, even though you have AFib. Any questions? No, there's got to be something. No?
So usually when the patient with AFib, how
Right.
much speed do you want? For example, 1 hour, 2 miles speed, 1.5 miles speed. So they want to know how much speed you want.
Right. Generally, if I'm just starting somebody in cardiac rehab, probably that 1.5 to 2.0 is a good starting point. But it also will depend if I get a very tall man with long legs, or I get a little tiny lady with little short legs. I do sometimes have to adjust. But a good general rule would be that 1.5 to 2.0. Once I get them on there and I can kind of see how they're doing, and you feel, how's this feel? Is it a comfortable pace? Or does it feel like she's really working at it? Just when they first start, you want them to start kind of slow and then gradually build, like I said, about once a week. Try to slowly add a little time. You can also slowly add a little more speed as you get kind of used to the machine and as your heart gets in better condition.
So from a heart rate standpoint, when the rehab standpoint,
Right.
some people heart rate baseline very slow. Some
Right.
people are like 60 or 50, some people maybe 80.
Right.
So when they monitor their exercise heart rate, how much you want? 20% increase?
Generally, we do rest plus 30 in cardiac rehab, unless it's specifically
How they
designated.
calculate?
So we just, whatever their resting is, so let's say their resting is 60, then you would want them to go 30 beats above that. So we wouldn't want them to be above 90.
So just add in the 30%.
Yes, so just 30 beats, so it'd be rest plus 30 beats. Now, if we get a stress test, we generally do our 60 to 75% off of their max. But we typically just do the resting, whatever your resting heart rate is. If it's 60, you wouldn't want to go above 90. Or let's say your resting heart rate is 50, then you wouldn't want to go above 80. But then if you're coming in much higher, then you're going to be able to go higher. It's all dependent. And then depending on, sometimes we get people that don't take their meds, so they come in one day, their heart rate is usually 50 and they're coming in at 85. And so on that day, they'll go much higher than they normally would if they missed their medicine that morning. Those kind of factors come into play. So I always tell people, whatever as far as the speed goes or the activity goes, in the beginning you want it to be kind of that light to moderate. You don't want to be pushing yourself super hard, okay? And then just gradually kind of increase as you feel like you're able to. And I usually use a week, after I do this speed for a week, then I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to give them, if they start at 2.0, I'll only go up like by 1/10, so 2.1, 2.2 at the most, and see how they kind of handle that.
So the 2.0 is miles per,
Miles per hour. That would be on a treadmill. Yes, sir. Yeah. So, and not everybody can do a treadmill for whatever reason. So we can put them, if we put them on a new step or a seated elliptical, we would just start them on level 1, give loads or levels. And then you see how they feel, and then you could gradually increase that load as they progress in the program.
When you're on the treadmill, do you suggest using the incline or keeping it flat?
You can, at first I would keep it flat, but once you got to a speed where you felt was a nice walking speed for you, then you can add that incline. But remember to keep yourself in that RPE scale. You don't want to feel like you're working too hard, because the incline will make it a lot harder. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What about yoga? How does that fit in?
Yoga, it's not necessarily cardiovascular. I know it's a lot of core and a lot of meditation and that type of stuff. So it would probably be more of the strength training than it would be the cardiovascular part or the aerobic exercise. It'd probably be more for the strength training because we work in your core a lot and a lot of meditation for your mental health.
I have some people like the strength training.
Yes,
What's the limited part? Because some people push like 200, I say too much.
too much.
But some people like 50, 60 pounds.
Right.
What do you think is the reasonable weight they have
Or
to?
weight. For like a dumbbell
How much, or they can,
or overhead press. You know, it's kind of different for everybody as far as that goes. But as far as you don't want to do so much weight that you can't handle that 8 to 15 repetition. So we're doing more reps. So if somebody has a large amount of weight that they're trying to press, they're probably not going to be able to do 8 to 15 repetitions. So I would say use that as your guide. Whatever weight you can safely do and get those repetitions. You understand? So if he did like 200 pounds and he can only lift 3, then that's too heavy. You need to bring your weight down so that you can do about 8 to 15 of those comfortably without, you know, straining too hard.
that is as a one group, right?
So that would be for one set.
And then how long
they
they
can
wait?
build up to 3.
So they can,
It depends. Some people say a minute and a half in between sets. So just, you know, I have some people that do one set, and then they'll come back around and do their second set. Then I have some people that do one set and they sit, they wait about a minute, then they'll do their second set, and then they'll go off to the next machine. So that's kind of just dependent on the person and kind of their preference and how they like to do the lifting. And if it's a machine that's very popular, they might not want to give it up. They don't want to get off the machine. So I would use more for weights. I would use more how many repetitions are they doing, and let that be their guide rather than the poundage. However much you can lift, but you have to go to that 8 to 15. You don't want to see them just lifting 5. Then that means it's too heavy for them to do more. That make sense? Yes, ma'am.
If you're not usually an AFib, can exercise be a trigger to an episode?
From what I was reading, it can if it's more of that higher intensity though. But I'm sure it could even if it's low to moderate. But a lot of what I was reading, people that exercise more of that higher intensity, they were finding that they could trigger them to go back into AFib. And it did say that it is always a possibility, no matter what you're doing, that you could possibly go back into atrial fib.
Or some exercise is more prone to that than others would be? Like the weightlifting
The
sort of
weightlifting,
thing?
not that I read. I just read that it was mainly just the intensity, not necessarily. Now, if you're not a weightlifter and you're trying to lift a lot, then that would be very strenuous for you. So that's why I talk about always starting very light, starting low and then gradually building up. Instead of, I'm starting, okay, now I'm going to exercise, but I'm going to start way up here, then that's going to be very stressful for your heart and for your body to try to keep up with that increased capacity and trying to catch up with it. Okay? Yes, sir.
What does this word mean, comorbidities?
Comorbidities. So, I think it has to do, Dr. Young might help me, as far as for the diseases, the disease process. So it puts you more at risk for the disease process of like heart disease and stuff like that.
for
Is that correct?
example, if a patient has coronary disease, if you have obesity, you have hypertension, you have cholesterol high, or diabetes, so this is the comorbidity could increase your risk for easily get young age coronary disease or severe disease with coronary disease. So this is what we usually call this is, you
So
have
kind of
one
like-
problem and then you have other problem can irritate and get the things worse.
So kind of like a risk factor type thing?
Yeah. And the other thing is like, for AFIB, you usually worry about whether they have sleep apnea, obesity, hypertension control, not control. So this is the kind of things that you do to worry about whether they have coronary disease or peripheral vascular disease. This is the things you have to think about at the whole picture.
And I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Is AFib still connected to sleep apnea?
Yes, I think it's one of the
Yes.
risk factors or comorbidities. he was
Probably
talking about.
between 26 to 30% people with sleep apnea, they will develop AFib in their life.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
For the weightlifting, I think I saw where it's 2 times a week recommended.
That's what American Heart is recommending.
Well, do you have to do the legs, arms, back, chest, shoulders at each one of those twice a week? Or do you, sometimes you read that you do your arms on one day and
Right.
you do your legs on the other?
You find when people go, if they're lifting like on a Monday and a Tuesday, you're really supposed to give a day in between to rest. So if somebody was doing a exercise program, they might do, arms and shoulders on a Monday and legs and back on a Tuesday. But if you're only doing 2 days a week, you would want to put a day in between, give your body a day of rest. And then, so you could do it all on the Monday, give your body that day of rest, and then do it again on the Wednesday. And you could do more than 2, but they're only recommending 2 days. But you do want to give a day of rest in between the weight training. Unless you do, like I said, arms and shoulders, arms and abdomen on a Monday, and then legs and back on the Tuesday, then you could do it consecutive days.
Dr. John, on the issue of having sleep apnea contribute to AFib, what if the sleep apnea is controlled with a CPAP machine? Does that affect?
That will improve your episodes.
Okay.
That will give you improve. So this is why we strongly suggest people with sleep apnea. Some people cannot tolerate apnea, they have claustrophobia or something. But we would like them to change the mask, some situation. As long as you follow up the decrease. Also because sleep apnea related to a lot of early stage coronary disease or other situations. So when you comply with that, this incidence will be decreased if you comply and you compare the people who do not comply with this treatment.
Thank you. I also had another question about the walking speed. I would think it was Mackie Shilstone wrote an article a couple months ago,
Okay.
and he talked about, he reported on several studies, and I think they said a 3-minute mile rate of walking was enough to allow someone to lose weight, potentially.
Okay.
So you mentioned 1.5 to 2. So we're not so much concerned about losing weight here if you're staying below 2.
Right.
2 minute
Well,
mile.
and 2, you could build to that, higher rate. But we're talking about if you're just starting someone, if they haven't had any exercise, where I would start them would be at that lower rate. But you could make that a goal, would be to gradually increase up to that, 3-mile-an-hour rate for the weight loss. But as far as the main goal would be, to start an exercise program, weight loss is a lot of people's goal, but for the cardiac patient, it's also for the heart itself. That would be your number one, I guess.
I guess I said it wrong. You said 2 miles per hour, not a 2-minute mile.
Yeah.
You'd be flying.
That's pretty fast.
I saw her face and I was like, yeah, that means, well, Maggie probably could do it though. He's still in really good
I don't
shape.
think they broke the 3-minute mile yet.
So yeah, so you're just looking at, okay, where can we start? And then gradually trying to build. So if weight loss is your goal, then definitely we want to try to get you going faster, but we want to do it kind of in a safe manner and try to get that heart ready to handle that extra workload. You never want to just go, okay, I haven't been doing anything, and then all of a sudden I'm going to really go to town on that treadmill. That's kind of when you can have some problems happen.
May I ask a question? Some people say I never exercise, so they don't do the routine exercise. But he or she said I do a lot of homework.
Right.
I work in, sometimes they have a
Fitbit?
Fitbit or something
Yeah.
like. They tell me they are working about like 5,000 steps a
Right.
day. Is it enough or it's not
So you
enough?
say, yeah, it's better than sitting on the sofa, is what I would tell them. But you want it to be, you want to try to build up to where it's continuous. So even though, like I said in the beginning, if I can only do, say, 3 10-minute stints, that's better than not doing anything. But my goal would be to get you to that continuous 30 minutes, 5 days a week. That's more aerobic exercise. Now, I would say probably 5,000 steps throughout your day would be more I'm physically active. But for it to truly be aerobic, it needs to be continuous.
That means you'll have to push your heart rate from baseline to add it at 30.
At that foot. And your goal is to get to 30 minutes. In the beginning, you might not be able to do it, but that's what your goal is, to get to that American Heart Association, is the 30 minutes, 5 days a week.
And during the exercise, you mean you push your heart rate from
Yes.
baseline and add it at 30? That is.
Yes, and the 30.
So if
rest
you
plus
not
30.
reach that, probably is not enough.
And as long as you're within it, and a lot of times our heart patients are on a lot of medicines that, I have a lady who comes in, she's in her 40s, in the 40, beats per minute. And today she got to 70, and I was like, whoa, you're doing really good, like she really increased her heart rate. Even though, somebody's 70, you might not think they're really working hard, but for her heart rate, the medicine keeps her so low that for her to work really hard to get it up to 70, I was very excited for her. So it kind of just depends on the person and all the stuff that they have going on. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
John, I want to ask something, because I know this question's going to be coming to me.
Good.
Cardiac rehab, what are the criteria for
Okay.
cardiac rehab?
So, I know phase 2 is where you come to the hospital, it's on the 7th floor, you wear a heart monitor. That is, generally, I do not think atrial fibrillation is a diagnosis that can be used by itself. Now, you have stable angina, if you had a recent heart attack, a recent stent, open heart surgery, congestive heart failure, all of those are covered. Now, if it doesn't qualify for your phase 2, there is a phase 3 program, which is conducted at the Wellness Center, which is on Homa and Kalani. You familiar with that? Wellness Center? It's only in the mornings, though. So sometimes I get afternoon people that say, oh, I can't wake up that early. But it's on Monday through Friday, it's at 7 a.m. And on Tuesday and Thursday, and on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have 8 o'clock. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's a 7 o'clock class. And then on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, there is an 8 o'clock class. There is always an RN there. There's always an exercise physiologist there, okay? And we do take your blood pressure once a week, and we do get your heart rhythm once a week. And they have paddles, and they'll put the paddles on you, and they'll check your rhythm. So if you kind of go in and out, they can kind of check you once a week to see how you're doing. If you were symptomatic, let's say, oh, I'm starting to feel really bad, the nurse will put the paddles on you, and they do assume care where they would get you, emergency help if you need it. So, and that is out of pocket, though. It's generally not covered by insurance. And I want to say it's $158 for 3 months. So it's about $50 a month. And that's it. Any questions about that? So they have the pool there, so you can do water aerobics or pool work in cardiac rehab. And then they have all the machines. They have a walking track up above. And they have all the machines, treadmills, bikes, seated ellipticals, standing ellipticals, all the weight machines. And the exercise physiologists do set you up an exercise program, and then we follow you with that. You get a new sheet every 6 weeks, and we can increase you and kind of guide you that way. And that still is referred by your physician. It does require a doctor's referral, but because it's not covered by insurance, you can come in, with the atrial fibrillation diagnosis or something like that. Okay.
So does that include membership to the to the facility, or?
No, you can get it, it's called the add-on, and I wanna say it's only like $25 more. If you wanna, if you're a cardiac rehab member and you say, oh, when y'all aren't here, I'm gonna come swim on a Saturday. I think if you pay $25 more, then you can come anytime you want. But just know that the cardiac rehab staff is only there during those morning hours.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Thanks again.
thank you.
Okay, no
Thank you.
problem, thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
All right.